If it's something that makes sense for our industries, we buy that as part of our shared equipment program. And then we introduce that technology to our industries and then invite them to bring some of their products over to experiment to see how this new technology can help them with throughput times or quality or lowering costs, whatever those things may be.
That's the voice of Lawrence Belial, Director of Business Retention and Expansion at the Ponca City Development Authority in Ponca City, Oklahoma. He joins us to share about a unique BRE effort that we're super excited to share with you, the Shared Equipment Program designed to support local manufacturers. We also touch on the changing face of manufacturing, the next generation of the industrial workforce, and the pride that this industry veteran takes in his native city's rich industrial history. I'm Amanda Ellis, and you're listening to Inside America's Best Cities, a podcast for chamber, economic development, and talent attraction professionals. Learn more about this podcast at livabilitymedia.com. And with that, let's jump in. Lawrence, thank you so much for joining us today. Super excited to have you.
I'm excited to be here. I really look forward to talking about the programs that we have in Ponca City.
So you're about to go into some background about your community, Ponca City, Oklahoma. So take it away.
Okay, well, Ponca City is a community in north central Oklahoma, which we are about, we talk in terms of time, not miles from different places in our state, but we are about an hour and 15 minutes north of Oklahoma City along the Kansas border. And we're a population of about 25,000 people. And that population has been pretty steady over the last 15 years. We've seen some increase and also some decrease, but overall, the population has stayed pretty much the same, 25,000 people. As far as our community goes, Ponca City's really grew up and our industries grew up around the early needs of the oil and gas exploration and production in our area. Over the next several decades, these local industries continue to grow and evolve around supporting what was then known as the Marland Oil Company refinery, which today is known as ConocoPhillips or Union 66. And it's a fairly large refinery. I think it's one of the largest, if not the largest, inland refinery in the United States. And to give you a scale of size of the Ponca City refinery, it processes around 220,000 barrels of finished products a day. So that
wow.
That's diesel, jet fuel, gasoline, that kind of thing.
That's a lot. So talk me through some of those, what the industry clusters are, or would you say that's kind of the main?
Yeah, our industry really drives our economy. There's no question about that. We have over 3,000 people that work in our manufacturing industries, which for a community the size of Ponca City, that's a lot. And as a matter of fact, this is a fact that not many people know, but Ponca City is the fifth largest manufacturing community in the state of Oklahoma.
Wow. Well, that's significant.
It is significant. I think that tells a story about our manufacturing base and our manufacturing capabilities. And we're pretty proud of the fact that we are number 5. We'd love to be number 1, but of course, number 5 behind Oklahoma City, Tulsa, Broken Arrow, and Lawton, which Lawton has 100,000 people. And here we are, 25% of that, but yet still 5th largest in the state of Oklahoma. But primarily, we are a heavy metal fabrication and precision manufacturing community with a mix of other manufacturers. Like I already mentioned, the refinery producing gasoline, diesel, and jet fuel. We also produce food products for McDonald's. We have a company that's been in our community for 60 years producing barbecue sauce. And one that's a little unique, especially for a community our size, is a company that actually grows and harvests microorganisms that are used in probiotics for animal food.
Oh, that's interesting.
But the equipment that is found in our industries is pretty typical in what you might find anywhere in the United States. In any type of metal manufacturing company, we have CNC lathes, CNC mills, laser cutters, light and heavy forming and shaping equipment. But we also have robotic handling and conveyor systems, and of course, welding. What manufacturing company doesn't have some welding? But to keep all this in check, most of our industries use what's called an ERP system, and that's an enterprise resource planning system that helps them deliver products from design to the final push to the customer.
Gotcha. So, of course, the topic of our interview today is about the shared equipment program that you operate as part of your BRE efforts for some of the organizations that we've just been talking about. So, you all got an award last year from IDC for this. Pretty innovative, from what I understand.
Well, um, I say this all the time. What we do at the Ponca City Development Authority is not to win awards. That's secondary. It's really we design programs that helps our industry be better. Either we design programs to help them find new customers. We design programs to help them be more efficient in producing products. We design products to help them find opportunity with other organizations within our community. Yes, awards are great, but what we do is really focused on how do we create programs that really assist our industries.
Yeah. So, give us an overview of this particular program, the shared equipment effort. How long have you had it? What sparked the creation? How does it work?
Well, the Ponca City Development Authority, we created this concept of shared equipment while doing our BR&E visits after hearing manufacturers talk about some of the things on their wish list. So essentially, it was born out of the need of local manufacturers for the occasional use of specialized and expensive equipment. And because of this specialized and expensive equipment, it was hard for them to justify financially to buy the equipment. So this program really morphed into the Shared Equipment Program, which is a joint cost share initiative funded by PCDA and also another entity called Pioneer Technology Center. And this equipment is centrally located out in Industrial Park at Pioneer Technology Center.
So any of these companies can use it if they want to engage. How does that work? Is it just open certain hours? Do they sign up for a time?
Well, actually, how do people use this equipment is it's pretty simple. As I mentioned, the equipment is housed at Pioneer Technology Center, which is really in the heart of our main industrial park. You know, you can almost throw a rock from Pioneer Tech and hit 10 of these industries that are along the same avenue that Pioneer Tech's located on. But the equipment is in different areas within the school. Some of it, like the smaller equipment, it has accessibility 24/7. And those people that use the equipment, they are given a keypad combination, which becomes their unique number. And that allows them to come and go to use the equipment whenever they need it. And again, that is truly 24/7. Now, the larger and more complicated equipment is kept in what's called Pioneer Tech's Flex Lab, and it is accessible during normal business hours, which is typically 6 a.m. to 10 o'clock in the evening, Mondays through Friday, and also on weekends when arrangements have been made.
Gotcha. So how many different types of equipment or machines would you say there are available for them?
Well, if it's okay for me to count on my fingers here, I will.
Yeah.
But we have a laser handheld CMM, which is a coordinate measuring machine, a large size industrial printer for printing prints and drawings and things like that, and a few other little pieces of ancillary equipment behind the 24/7 keypad door. And then the other equipment, which would be like we have two IPG laser welders. We have a cobot laser welder called a Vectus system. We have a couple large industrial 3D printers that can print different materials, even like carbon fiber and ceramics. And then we also have just received a donation of a fairly high end 3D scanner that will allow us to do some reverse engineering on some of the products that we experiment with. And I say we, I'm talking about myself and Pioneer Tech, and also with our industries.
Very cool. Is there any training component with how to use any of this, or is it sort of expected people coming in know what they're doing already?
Well, the answer is yes. There is some training. For an example, with the Keyonce coordinate measuring machine, the CMM, it was necessary that people be trained on this piece of equipment because it was really new and unusual and unique in how it operated. So we all, and when I say we all, there were about 10 of us, that's set through a class put on by Keonce, which is a manufacturer of the equipment, to learn how to operate it. So that equipment really required that we have a conventional sit-down training session with the users. Now, some of the other equipment, like the welders, for an example, most people in industry that do fabrication are familiar with the different types of welding techniques like TIG or MIG, but using the robotic piece of the robotic welder was unusual and unique, but it's so simple that if you can use an iPad and you understand welding, you can set the robot up to do weld patterns and do weld jobs in a matter of 20 minutes. It's very simple to use. The interface is very user friendly. Now, some of the other equipment is more specialized, like the laser welders, because it is a true laser, and it can be very dangerous. There's a lot of upfront training that goes into prepping the area, prepping the machine or the equipment, just making sure that people are working safely with a laser welder. But the other equipment, again, it's very intuitive, but we can train people on most of it in a matter of just 20 minutes or so on how to use it.
I mean, that seems to be like it would also be a benefit to your companies that are using this, is that assistance if they have new people or anything like that to get up to speed.
Well, the idea behind the shared equipment program was not only to buy equipment that our industries could share, but also to buy equipment that we, being Pioneer Tech and Ponca City Development Authority, that we could use to introduce new technologies to our industries. For an example, they are super busy trying to make money. That's really what they make. They don't make products, they make money. And they're busy making money, and they don't have time to go out and look for new technologies and the application of new technologies. So our role at the Ponca City Development Authority and the role at Pioneer Technology Center is to go out and explore these new technologies. And then if it's something that makes sense for our industries, we buy that as part of our shared equipment program. And then we introduce that technology to our industries and then invite them to bring some of their products over to experiment to see how this new technology can help them with throughput times or quality or lowering costs, whatever those things may be.
What kind of feedback have you gotten from your companies, or can you share some success stories or
Sure.
favorite examples?
Yeah, probably one of my favorites would be using the IPG laser welders. Of course, it's hard to convince some of the older folks that have been welding for eons that there's newer technology out there than what they've been using for the last 50 years. And laser welding is one of them because it's just so different. And one of our local industries, they had actually visited the school. They put their hands on the laser welder. They said, wow, we need this in our industry because they do a lot of thin gauge material. So they purchased the laser, which again, we wanted them to do that. That's the reason we bought the equipment, so we could show this technology to our local industries. But they bought the equipment, they were up and running with theirs, and they had some small issue with the actual gun, the welding gun itself. So they made a call to Pioneer Technology Center and say, hey, our equipment is down. Can you help us get it back up? And we said, well, let's don't worry about getting your equipment back up. Let's bring your production over to the school. You continue producing products, making money, and then we'll worry about addressing the issues with your equipment later on. So that's one that I love because, again, here's industry using this shared equipment to make money, and they weren't delayed by the repair of their own equipment. So that's one of my favorites, I think.
What are some items or some more equipment you'd like to add in the coming months, years, future?
Well, a couple pieces of equipment that we're looking at would be another robotic arm for one of the lasers, or we have talked a lot with our local industries about the need for a metal 3D printer. Now, 3D printing has been around for 20 plus years. It's not anything new, but it seems to be so mainstream now that they get requests sometimes about metal printed parts, but yet 3D metal printers are super expensive. It's easy to spend $250,000 plus to buy one that has capabilities that could actually do production type printing in metal. It's hard for any one company to justify the cost. So that's one that the Ponca City Development Authority and the Pioneer Technology folks we're looking at to say, is this something that we can justify? And is this something that would be utilized by our local industries? And we believe it would, but it's just sometimes finding the budget to do those kind of things.
Yeah, I hear you. So, I would love to hear some of your thoughts, Lawrence, just thinking about the landscape of future workforce. Clearly, you're really knowledgeable about a lot of these topics that we're talking about. What are your thoughts on where that's headed and how the workforce is skilling up to, staff these types of manufacturing operations? And there's also this whole element of what you're talking about is really high tech and impressive, and it's just not what people always think about when they think about manufacturing.
It's really not. I use this term a lot. Industry at one time was the red rag in the back pocket type of job. It's, the guy that was kind of dirty and he had wore steel-toed boots and probably wore the hard hat and things like that. Industry has really evolved and evolved quickly in the last, I would say, 8 years. We're seeing more and more equipment that is connected to an iPad. And if you can use an iPad, then you can operate some very sophisticated equipment, like a robotic welder, for an example. So I've seen a shift from more conventional, I would consider it, like CNC machines, things like that. The switch has gone to more technology driven devices that have interfaces that are very similar to what we see. And again, as an example, as what we might find in an iPad or what you might have on your phone. Matter of fact, a lot of the systems that we use in our community can be accessed by a person's cell phone. So we see that switch from what is now becoming old school to new school technologies. And it's actually opening the door to a new type of worker, one that doesn't necessarily have to know how to write G code programming for a CNC machine. So technology is really taking over. And I think that's a good thing because if you look at the workforce that is coming up behind um, the Gen Zers, for an example, the Gen Zers will probably make up, I'm going to say 65% of our workforce in the next 10 years. And we've got to make sure that we, first of all, continue producing products for our country because that's what makes us strong, a country that produces products. But we have to be able to attract the Gen Zers to these industries. And I think the way to do that is through equipment that is very technical and also fits the world that they grew up in. Not to stereotype anyone, but gamers, for an example, gamers make great operators for some of this new equipment because they're used to working through a screen instead of pushing or pulling levers and turning knobs and that kind of thing.
It's like taking the game into the real into the real
It really
world.
is, yeah.
Has AI had much of an impact on any of this yet?
Some in our community, I would say as an industry worldwide, absolutely AI is becoming more prevalent. And there's some AI in our industry. Some systems allow you to use AI to track production or track defects or track quality or track where orders are within the system and all the things that are necessary for that order to be shipped to the customer. Have we scheduled the shipping? Do we have all the labeling that we need? All those kind of things that really are becoming mainstream in industry. We're seeing more and more of that.
So, you're leading a lot of other BRE initiatives besides the one that we've spent most of our time talking about. Any others of those that you'd like to highlight or talk a bit about?
Sure. Something that we've also identified is how important industry standards are for our manufacturers. I mean, when you have credentials that gives you street creds, for an example, if you are a company that is ISO certified, those people in the industry recognize, oh, these guys are ISO certified. That means they have a quality system that's in place and it's functional and it's something that can be audited. So as I was making my rounds with BR&E, I was talking to a lot of people about the certifications that they had and certifications they needed. And most of them were saying, certifications are just too expensive. We really can't justify the cost. So I thought, okay, what if we had a program that assisted companies reaching these certifications? So I kind of penciled this thing out and put it together and made a rough draft and looked at it. And lo and behold, I come up with something called the ICAP program. And ICAP is a acronym for Industry Certification Assistance Program. And this program assists companies in reaching certain certifications that are necessary to do business locally, statewide, nationwide, and also worldwide. And that is a funding mechanism that is supported through the Ponca City Development Authority.
That's awesome.
Yeah. We also have some other programs, like one that we've changed it a little bit, but it's called BRETS, and that's BRETS, and that's an acronym for Business Retention and Expansion Trade Shows. And we know that it's important for our local industries to get in front of potential new customers. So the PCDA helps fund trade show costs for those industries that want to go to trade shows for their specific industry. And again, that is funded through the PCDA.
I love how tailored all of this is to what your individual companies need.
It really is. And again, I've always said you can learn a lot when you listen, and that's why you have 2 ears and one mouth, right? So companies will tell you what they need if you just listen and then act on what they've told you.
What's your background, Lawrence? You're clearly really knowledgeable about everything we've talked about today.
Well, I'm actually an old manufacturing guy. I spent over 30 years in manufacturing. I'm a Six Sigma quality black belt. I'm very well versed in all these quality standards that I've mentioned, like ISO 9000, ISO 17025, AS 9100, all those things. I'm very experienced with lean manufacturing, doing process capability studies. I've worked in shops. It's just that's what I grew up doing. I grew up in manufacturing. And then one day somebody said, "Hey, you ought to be in economic development." And lo and behold, here I
Here
am.
you are.
Yeah,
Well, it
here I
seems
am.
like a perfect job for you.
Oh my God, I love what I do. It's an absolutely wonderful job being involved with all of our local industries and being involved with technology and learning new tools and new methods. And gosh, how cool is it for an old fart to, sorry, I shouldn't have said that. You can bleep that out if you'd like, but an older guy like me to get his hands on a robotic welder and do programming and run a robot. I mean, how cool is that for an old guy to do? Most guys my age are playing dominoes down at the pool hall. Not me. I like to be involved, have my hands on things, learn, and then take what I've learned and share that with our local manufacturers to help them grow and implement these technologies within their own walls.
Well, we always wrap up, Lawrence, with a fun question. The fun
Yes.
question wasn't on my list, but it'll be easy, I promise.
Okay.
So
Yes,
if
I've bungee
someone
jumped before. Yes, I've flown a plane before. What else? Yes, I ride motorcycles. I love to fish. What else? So,
if someone were visiting Ponca City for the first time, what's something they should be sure to do, like your bucket list item?
gosh, there's so many things. Ponca City is very unique. We have a lake within our city limits, which I've fished on many times and caught many fish there. So you need to spend time at Ponca Lake. There's boating, fishing, swimming. There's a bike trail there around Ponca Lake. There's a lot of unique history here. The Marland Mansion was built back in the 20s by E.W. Marland. He was the individual that actually started the Marland refinery, which is now today known as Conoco or Phillips 66. That all began right here in Ponca City. And he built a huge mansion that is full of art and was completed by many famous people from around the world. So it's something that you really need to see if you were to come to Ponca City.
Very cool. Well, thank you so much, Lawrence, for spending some time. You're clearly so passionate, so knowledgeable about what you're doing, and I really appreciate you sharing that with us. Thanks for listening to the Livability Podcast, where we take you inside America's best cities. At Livability, we highlight the unsung awesomeness of small and mid-sized cities across the country. We also partner with communities to reach their target companies and potential residents through digital content and print magazine programs. If you enjoyed this episode, please follow, rate, and review this show wherever you listen to podcasts. You can also learn more about us at livabilitymedia.com. Have an idea for an upcoming episode? Email me at aellis@livability.com. Until next time, from Livability, I'm Amanda Ellis, sharing the stories of America's most promising places.